What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Pilots Club, a podcast all about the first episodes of television shows and the many reasons why they may or may not be worth a watch. Every month, we pick a different pilot episode to watch and then discuss it here on our show. We release these episodes first and foremost to our Patreon supporters at patreon.com/the Whatnauts on our $3 tier and above. And then 2 years later, we release these episodes to a wider audience on a public feed. So if you want to catch up on 2 years worth of episodes, patreon.com/the Whatnauts is the place to do that. When we first made the Pilots Club, it was a little rough around the edges, so we wanted to polish it up a bit and repackage it, so to speak, with this new intro. And eventually you will stop hearing me doing this pre-recorded intro, and I will just start saying it as we record each episode. But until then and beyond, please enjoy the show and what it grows into. Hello and welcome back to the Pilots Club, our Patreon exclusive podcast here at the Whatnauts. If you're watching this, you are a Patreon supporter of us, so we thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We love you a lot.
Absolutely.
And yeah, we hope you enjoy what we got here today. The pilot for this time, Cheers. Melissa, this was your idea. Tell me about Cheers.
Yes. I picked this because over on the review show, our ongoing monthly series right now, is we are watching The Good Place, starring sitcom luminary Ted Danson. And
Not
I thought,
to be confused with Tony Danza, as I did on the review show.
Separate guys. And I thought, I know he's from Cheers. I've seen Cheers around, but I've never really paid attention to Cheers, and especially not as an adult. I have heard that this show really continues to stand up for people. Like, people who liked Cheers go back and watch Cheers now. They're like, it still holds up. Cheers is still very funny. Like, maybe I should try watching this. Let's see the origin story of this sitcom veteran that we are watching now in another context on the review show.
Yeah. I mean, it's one just from pop culture right. Osmosis, right? Like, I've heard about. It's not as like meme-ified. It's not like on the internet in a way certain other things are that I've osmosed. But yeah, like I'm familiar with it. That was it. That was the extent of my knowledge. I'm familiar that there is a sitcom called Cheers. I've never seen it and never watched it. So this was my first time checking it out. And was that the same for you, or had you like seen an episode or two here and there?
I think I saw bits of it when I was a kid. I think it was like one that was on, but it wasn't like either of my parents' favorites. I knew that this is where Frasier was from. And I did grow up with a lot more Frasier. And that has been something that made me hesitant to ever watch Cheers. I'm like, that's just Frasier, but all of his friends and family members I love are not there. It's only him. There's no Niles. What's the point of watching a show that is Frasier but not Niles?
Exactly. Yeah, and I have to say, going back to this, I think this hit in a great way.
I really enjoyed it. Yes.
I thought this first episode was awesome. It was funny. It was tightly paced. It moved on one thing after another. It did. I think I don't know if I would say it's the best at introducing the characters per se, but it's so strong. It feels like a show that had already been running for a couple seasons, and it was confident in that. Like it felt like I was walking into the middle of something that had been going on, and not the like, okay, we're testing things out. This is the premise. This is the characters. This is what your interactions will be like. It just felt like a well-oiled machine, right? And I don't know how many of these characters stick around or for how long. I know this show was a pretty lengthy show. It went on for years and years.
11 seasons.
Yeah.
From 82 to presumably 93.
There you go. But yeah, I don't know what characters stick around or how it grows and changes, but
Yeah.
this felt
It's like,
good. Yeah.
yeah, this was pretty impressive right off the bat for the set. Whenever I did catch a little bit of Cheers as a kid, I did like how the set looked. It's all this like warm, dark wood and
Mhm.
brass, and it looks really cozy. It looked like a space I did want to be in, even though I was a child and I couldn't go into a bar. I like to look at it. And watching this pilot episode, this is a big set.
Yeah.
It's really spacious. It feels really filled out and lived in. And it's got this hallway over to the side. It's not a direct 3-wall box. It's got this side
Yeah.
hallway. It's that the camera goes down. Like, it's bigger in the scope of its set, and it's bigger in what the camera does than what I was expecting from a 1982 sitcom. There's like the camera goes up and down that hallway. You sort of follow. I can't call him Michael. His name is Sam Malone. Follow Sam Malone as he like walks out and gets set up there. Like, it's got some panache to it.
Yeah. That was also something I kind of noticed too, is just the way the camera looks in this pilot episode. Like the way the characters are shot doesn't look like a sitcom to me. Like it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can recognize this, this shot. And it's interesting because for such a successful show that Cheers was, I kind of feel like there's something about the way like what was in focus and what was not, like the depth of field of these cameras and what they were doing, just the way they shot. It seems unique, and I'm almost baffled about why sitcoms look different than that. Like that,
right? Like,
why is this so unique? Because this looks good.
Yeah, like Frasier doesn't look like this. Frasier has a much more limited. I think it's got a bigger, like when you look at Frasier's apartment, it does have a couple different angles that you can shoot it from, but the characters don't move across that space and have the camera follow them the same way that this Cheers pilot has.
Right. Yeah, it stood out to me and made me think like, yeah, this is not what became the look of sitcoms as we kind of generally know them. And like there's a time and place for everything. I'm not a huge sitcom fan. I don't mind them, but I was just like, why don't they look more like this? This looks great. It was just a little bit baffling with that, but it looked good too. So
yeah, I liked that. And you're right that the show has like a confident feeling in it. Like, everybody feels, even though they're brand new, relatively settled into their characters. Ted Danson feels right at home here.
Oh, yeah.
And we mentioned this
Suave.
in the episode we just
Smooth.
recorded on season 2 of The Good Place. Going back and watching this, he looks incredible. He's got such a healthy head of hair. Like, this isn't the type of man I usually go for, but that like triangle of chest hair that you see above his shirt, excellent. And like to look at him in this and then look at him in The Good Place, like, fine wine wishes at ages like Ted Danson.
Right.
What a
exactly.
presence he has been. Like, this is what I wanted to do, was to take this name and this face I've kind of seen around my whole life and really take a good look at it and look into, why is this an American icon? And you see it right there in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You might be Canadian. I have no clue. I
no idea.
Whenever I say something like that, I have to second guess myself. Like, you have no proof that person isn't from Vancouver.
Yeah, like I just don't have enough good things about. I don't have enough. I have so many good things to say about this.
Right. Let's start with Diane.
Sure.
I knew this was an 80s sitcom, but it doesn't, when you think about the 80s aesthetic, this doesn't look like that until Diane comes in with her bright pink and purple power suit. Like, she looks like a Barbie that walked in here.
on that note, when my girlfriend asked me when this was filmed, without even thinking, I was like, "Oh, it's the '60s." And then she said, "Yeah, it could be that or like the '70s." Nope, '80s,
1982. Yeah. Pre Return of the Jedi.
But like you had said, it has that like real like dark wood, real cozy aesthetic. And yeah, it is not until she walks in this like bright purple and pink outfit that's like, oh, this is the '80s. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Here we go. But yeah, she stands out right away just in terms of her look. There is a shot with her that this might just be because it was the pilot or who knows what, but the like color grading did seem a little out of whack because her pink was so pink that it was just like, whoa, oh God, like it's radiant.
It's there to light up a whole room.
Right, yeah.
She's got this beautiful, like, fluffy, bouncy hair. The show seems to imply that she is relatively younger. I don't know if it's still my child brain.
Student age? She's a teaching assistant. So I would assume
she's
like
been a teaching assistant for like 2 years. Yeah, you imagine she's like 26 or 27 in the logic of what the story is telling you. But I don't know if it's just my child brain that looks at a woman wearing a suit with like big blown out hair and thinks that's a grown up. This woman's surely older than me, right?
That is your aesthetic. The like '80s office worker woman with the big shoulders,
Diane is what I want
hair.
to be. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I like you have this like I look up to them. That's what I want to be when I grow up.
Don't tell me I've already passed my best Diane years.
There's still to come. You can still achieve that, Melissa. But yeah, she like I would also agree with that though. Like she like what I think of as a 24-year-old, 26-year-old, like not that, right?
Yeah.
But it was just a different time. There is also a character that refers to her as a child, right? And it is in a weird way, but it is still like, that's right. You're young. You're super young.
It's
here in this situation.
And I think there was also like the aesthetics of the time, at least when I watch other things set in the 80s, I do see teenage girls who are just wearing clothes that also look like their mom would wear those clothes. Their mom would also have that haircut. There might have just been more of a generalized all ages. This is what people look like sort of style going on back then. Yeah. So maybe she is supposed to be in her mid-20s, but to us, growing up having like our moms look like that or other kids' moms look like that, you're like, no, that's a grown-up.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, I liked her. Her storyline is very sympathetic. I feel like that she is just kind of swept up by this professor that she starts to get involved with, and he's just a mess. Like he has an ex-wife, but he's still in love with his ex-wife, but he promised to take her to, was it Bermuda?
Barbados. Yeah. One of those islands that they mentioned in the Beach Boys song. Yeah. So he's just proposed to her. They're going to elope, and he's like, my ex-wife still has like the heirloom family ring. If I'm going to marry you, I want you to have that ring. Before our flight leaves, let me run over to my ex-wife's house, see if I can get that ring from her. He's like, I don't want to do it without that. And I think this episode does a good job of showing that guy, what was his name?
I don't remember.
Sumner Sloan.
Sumner, yes.
Yeah, he like fell into this. He was not trying to pull one over on her. This was not a scheme. I think he is sincere in his original plan of, you and I are going to get married. Let me go to my ex-wife just to get the ring back. And he goes to see his ex-wife, and something just hits him. Like he just falls back in love in these interactions with his ex-wife. I think that the fact that he falls for her again, and this was not ultimately some sort of a scheme, like he doesn't feel like a dirtbag or a cheater or anything when you first see him. I think gives Diane a lot of dignity, and that she doesn't seem foolish for falling for a guy who seems so obviously at the beginning like he's real flaky.
I don't know if I agree with that. I wouldn't say that it makes Diane seem foolish. But again, she is young, falling for an older man. I'm saying that,
like, if the story was told differently,
oh, sure,
it would have made her seem foolish. And I like what it does, where this thing happens to him just like as a lightning strike, just out of the blue, just happenstance. Like, he's not trying to get back with his ex-wife. He goes to see her and something just happens. And then she's just left by the wayside. Like, it was not his ultimate plan to abandon her at the bar. Like, she gets swept up in him, and then he gets swept up in the ex-wife. It's this sort of chain of consequences that, again, I like that she wasn't painted as, oh, this is a bad idea from like scene one.
Yeah. Yeah, and so she's just kind of stuck there and doesn't know what to do, as she's been left. She's been abandoned.
It is.
And go ahead.
It is weird that he just sort of plants her there, like he's locking up a bike to a bike rack. I was kind of iffy.
That is the thing. Like, Sumner is a character that I very quickly started to be like, oh, this guy's a sleazeball. Like, it's not necessarily apparent, but in little things he says, in little things he does, whether he knows it or not. And I don't think the show truly portrayed him as like, oh, he's a sleazeball, he's disgusting.
Right. You can look at him and know this is a one episode character. He's going to leave. That is the inciting incident for Diane's presence here on the show. But there's enough sincerity in him that you are on Diane's side and you understand why she wants what she wants. And you're not like, Diane, leave that guy.
Yeah. But he, like, when I say he's a sleazeball, he's also like, again, it's not so like apparently so. You kind of have to read into it.
Right.
And when you do, I feel like you realize, again, like, he's not necessarily doing this on purpose, but he is also, he's someone who's indecisive. He has feelings for multiple people, and he's just stringing people along, and that's what's happening to Diane. Like, again, like, he's not purposely or like maliciously doing this, but it, like, this is just what happens. And so, yeah, it makes Diane a really sympathetic character, as she's just kind of abandoned there at this bar. And that's when Sam has the idea of like, what if you work for me? And at first I was like, why would you even offer a job? And then he explains, it's like, well, you can't go back to work for him now, right? Like, that's going to be such an awkward situation. Like, you need a job now. And
I think that like, is a smart.
Right.
Yeah, I think that is smart of him. I understand why he offers her the job, but if she's like a grad student who's become this teaching assistant, and he asks her, what else are you qualified to do? And she says nothing. I was a little baffled by that. Like, maybe you have job skills in a narrow field. Maybe you can't work for this professor at this university, but you're in Boston. There's plenty of other, there's plenty of other universities where you could go. I understand why she can't go back to where she was, but the fact that she can go nowhere else but the bar perplexed me a little bit. But I do like the memory
test. Just a like spur of the moment, like, oh, I've been abandoned. There's nothing I can do. Like, oh, what was me? I'm not good at anything, I guess. Right? Like, I wasn't even good enough to keep his attention.
Maybe.
I mean,
if there was a line of something like
it's not so. Like the show, it like, she is not like, woe is me, I'm terrible, I've been abandoned. Like, that's not her character. That's not what she's doing. But she still is in a moment like that. And that may have just been her way of expressing that. Like, I have no prospects right now. I'm stuck. What do I do?
If there would have been a line about you know what? I will take the job at the bar until I can get into another university. I think it would have sat with me slightly better.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, then she just has this great memory and figures out that
Yeah.
she can take these complicated orders and will know like you'll fit in perfectly.
Yeah. I do like that there was a very good reason for not only why she would take the job, because she's kind of been stuck in the sticky situation, but why she would be good at the job and why her life experience as this scholar of literature, somebody who studies words very carefully, would also lend her to having a memory that quick. I think that was very smart.
Or just be relatable to different people. Like that is the role of the bartender, right? Like everyone, like they do make that joke. She's like, so why do people tell their, or no, that's in The Good Place. I'm mixing them up. It's same bartender, different bar, right?
Yeah, there's an episode of The Good Place where they do make a Ted Danson tend a bar.
Yes. But in that, like the character is like, so why do like everyone, like why do people tell their problems to bartenders? And he gives some like, well, I guess we're just easy to talk to or listen to. She goes, I don't know why anyone would do it that. So, and then she just like proceeds to like tell her all of her problems like right then in there. And I think in a similar way, her being well read is easy. Like she now has all of these touchstones and literary works, like, oh, you're like this character in this book, or whoever can somehow relate to their stories, which is something that I do a lot. I like asking people what their favorite movies are, their favorite stories, why they like them, because that can say a lot about a person. And can just like help you figure them out or relate to them, stuff like that. But yeah, they have the one conversation in the bar that immediately I was like, I if Melissa hadn't already watched this, I think this is why she picked it. Like,
no, I hadn't.
This is an exact conversation that Melissa has had and has then literally shared with me. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, this is so relatable. This might be part of what makes this show as well aged as it is, besides the beautiful looks of Ted Danson. Part of the like dumb bar chatter and debate is, what is the sweatiest movie? Just literally what I picked as a series of review show pitches 2 weeks ago. So, what are the sweatiest, hottest movies? And that's why we watched Wages of Fear.
Right. So had you seen this pilot before?
No.
You didn't know this was in there?
I watched this last night. I was shocked.
Amazing. Because it is the exact
it felt like
what
real
is the sweatiest movie? And they're just like, oh, it's this, it's that, it's that. And I was like, let's have this conversation. Oh my God.
Right. I'm like, I truly cannot deny how well it understands the human condition, because I literally just did this.
Yeah.
It like
so good.
8 years before I was born, it nailed something I was going to do.
Yep. Good Lord. Man, yeah, that was kind of wild. I just think having a sitcom set in a bar is an interesting way to do things, because people will be walking in and out all the time. You'll have regulars, you'll have just these random conversations that come up as a joke from a table over there that you overhear, and somehow that starts to infect its way through the bar. It's a good heading. They really struck lightning with the show as a whole, as we can see by its success. But even just with this pilot, like it's a good one.
Let's talk about the opening credits. We all know the song. Even if you've never really watched Cheers, I think that song is really
you've heard it
commonly
once or
used
twice
and
or
referenced. like the episode of The Simpsons where they make the Flaming Moe. There's a Cheers parody intro for Flaming Moe's when he renames the bar. Uh, like we all know the song. And like as a kid, even if I didn't really watch the show, I liked those opening credits showing these old illustrations of people at a bar. And it's
I
the
had
bar
never seen
throughout
these.
history. Oh, you hadn't?
No, I was shocked with the opening credits where I was like, this is not what I expected at all.
Maybe this show would come on after something else I watched on like Nick at Night or whatever. And I would stay through the first couple minutes to get a feel of it. And I did like the opening credits. I don't know if you remember back in like the early to mid 90s Subway, the inside of a Subway had old black and white illustrations like that as its wallpaper, illustrations of literal subways, like the old timey people on subways. And it reminded me of that.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I liked the credits for what they were. It was just such a shock of like, this is not what I was expecting. But yeah, like I think it really nails what they wanted to do with the show in a weird way.
Yes.
Like it's all of these scenes of like old timey bars and pubs and stuff like that, where people went to relax after work, get a drink, hang out with their friends. It showed a sense of community and this space where like people were happy and could release their problems and their stress and could just like escape from the world here, right? And yeah, like I think the opening credits just nail it.
They're so sincere, and I've known the visuals. I've known the opening theme song. I've seen it before, but something watching it last night, it really hit me. From like, I understand now what bars are for and why people like them. Like, you want to go where everybody knows your name. You want to go someplace where your troubles are all the same. Like, this is something you were just trying to do. You're talking about how you and Rachel have been going around to all these local businesses. Like, what is our liquor store? What is our butcher shop? We want to go in there and the people say hi to us and remember things we like. That's what you are doing right now, is to find the place where everybody knows your name. That is this deep human longing for familiarity, for company,
connection,
for commiseration,
belonging.
Community. Yes. Yeah, like the show has this it hits on something really true and deep in a way that like the opening credits to Friends or something doesn't.
Right, yeah. Because like even with the like I don't know, like 1920s style, would you say that's about like where some of the imagery is?
That's older times.
It's
that's
kind
like,
of through the ages, but like that's the idea too, right? It like there's a history of this bar.
There have been hundreds. There have been hundreds of Sam Malones throughout history. He is the latest in a long legacy.
Sam McClones. But that was terrible. I apologize. If you would like a refund for your Patreon support, let us know.
This is like, what if The Shining was good? What if the bar at The Shining was a nice place to be? And it was good that Lloyd the bartender appears and ask you to tell him about your wife.
Sure. Yeah. 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 Good show. I don't know if I have much else to say on it.
I'd say that all the characters arrive in a really impactful way. Like Carla like kicks the door open and screams. I've known that when Norm enters, everybody yells Norm. But to see it in front of you, it's just sort of like, Norm! It's just this cheer, this call. And later you see the practical application of it, and that he drinks so much beer he falls asleep and they have to wake him up. Norm!
Yeah. It's good. It's good stuff.
And not all the players are there yet. Like, I know Frasier's in here. I know like over 11 seasons, the cast changes. Like, I think it takes us a while to get to like Kirstie Alley or Woody Harrelson, but this is the only pilot we've watched where I watched episode 1 and then I was mad that I didn't get to keep watching more. Because my rule is, just so that I don't muddle my thinking at all, I watch the first episode. I watched just the pilot and then I stopped there so I can talk about the pilot as an episode on its own. I was upset.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have this dumb rule for myself, and now I don't get to watch more Cheers. I have to wait until tomorrow to watch more Cheers.
Exactly. Well, now you can. You are free. You have been released.
I am free to cheer.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, I have my pick for next month of what we will be talking about. So one thing we've wanted to do with the review show in general is just have more foreign content. We like to get different continents and different countries that shows could be from. We haven't done much Spanish content, like in the Spanish language.
True.
We've done a few things, I think, from Spain, or like one or two things from Spain in general. But the show that I'm bringing for this next month is from Spain. This is a show available on Netflix called Cable Girls. The Spanish title is La Chicas del Cable. I guess I don't know how to say cable in a Spanish accent. But yeah, it is a period piece set in the 1920s. About 4 women or so that start to work at a brand new modern telecommunications company. They're working the switchboards and putting in the things here and there. But it's apparently like each of these women have come to the job for a different reason. Maybe they're a struggling mom. Maybe they're a spy. Maybe they're this. Maybe they're that. Right. So yeah, it seems like different things. Like they have different reasons for coming to this job. And it says the show ends up revealing the hardships that working women faced in the 1920s. Spain, especially the severe restrictions on the rights of Spanish women in a male-dominated society. I had seen like the trailer for this on Netflix a long time ago.
Yeah.
In total, there are 5 seasons, a total of 42 episodes. So it had a good run. Apparently, my partner has seen some of the show and was like, "I really like this show. It's fantastic."
Nice.
But it's just one that, like I had seen the trailer, and when she mentioned it, I was like, this is exactly what I was looking for. I wanted some kind of like live action foreign language show that we could at least check out the first one of on the Pilots Club. Because who knows, there might be a day where it's like time on the review show to be like, hey, we've seen a number of these pilots. Yeah, let's watch the full show.
Yes.
Or let's watch season 1
I
of
was
going to
ask, like, why is this going here and not on the review show? But this is a test, which is something like we haven't.
To think about this show. It is potentially a testing go around. Does not have to be, but
could be.
Could be, yeah. So, Cable Girls on Netflix is what we are going to be checking out this next month. I think they're hour-long stuff. I don't know for sure, but I would imagine that they are. So 40 minutes to an hour-ish is how long to expect. Well, yeah. There we go. Well, that is it.
That was it.
For the Pilots Club this month. We cheered indeed. Norm! As they say, right? Yep, indeed. Cool. Well, thank you for checking this out. We hope you enjoyed it. Once again, thank you for supporting us on Patreon. It means a lot.
Thank you. Yes.
I have been Kyle. Melissa has been Melissa. This has been the Pilots Club. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.